Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
I'm confused. Which one's Mike? Which one's Glenn?
I'm Glenn, so you must be Mike.
Okay.
Morning, brother.
I got
What's
that
going
figured
on,
out.
man?
I got it figured out now. How are you?
Good, man. I'm on my third cup of coffee, and I'm wearing my new apparel line.
Oh, really? What are you promoting now?
No, it's not really my apparel line at all, and I'm not promoting anything, which we don't do on the show. But what I started wearing like sober wear, right? So my T-shirt today I just posted on Instagram says, "Sobriety is my superpower."
Oh, man.
So my one last week was Sober AF. And so we're all trying to figure out what AF means. But,
Yeah, right. I'll have to ask I'm pretty sure my grandson knows what that means.
yeah, that's awesome. But my certainly sobriety is definitely my superpower. So I appreciate the jump in the coffee shop and continue to chat about with you. So
Well, you know what I love about today?
what?
I get to disagree with you, and I get to break a rule. No, I'm disagreeing, but I'm breaking a rule. Glenn says we don't promote anything on our show. But guess what? We're going to promote something on our show today.
Let's promote. Let's
All
go.
right, you
Let's
ready
go.
for a little promotion?
I'm ready.
All right, good. So we've got a table for three.
Oh, I love Table for Three.
Yeah, so I don't have the backstory on how we kind of connected, but
I think it was Instagram.
Instagram maybe? Okay.
think so.
Glenn handles our social media.
Oh, geez.
I handle making sure we've got coffee with creams and sugars and
Nice.
muffins in the studio. But so Glenn connected with Jules, and he says, Jules. And I said, oh, interesting. What, like, is that her name? Like Cher? And he goes, yeah, I didn't see a last
Jules.
name. So it's just Jules, like Cher, just, Madonna. There's no last name. So Jules, welcome to the coffee
welcome,
shop.
Jules.
Guys, yes, Jules or Prince or Cher.
I know,
or-
right?
There's a lot of people.
Well, it's funny because I went back on Instagram to find your profile, and I came up with the real Jules. You know, the singer Jules.
Hey! What?
You know
Watch
what?
your mouth. Watch your mouth
you
now.
know,
We have the real Jules.
We
She's
have the real
fake.
Jules, but that's the singer Jules.
That's the
you know,
singer
and,
Jules. Right.
And is that her real name?
I probably not.
Probably not. So, Jules is, I'll give you a little background here, author of The Making of a Woman from the Inside Out. And your book was just released in October of last year, right? So you were
Yes.
busy during while everybody else was trying to figure out how to survive, you were writing a book.
Well, it was probably the most productive thing I could have done.
Well, that's awesome.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So it came out in October, yes?
Yep.
And-
She
and-
launched in October.
Oh, that is fantastic. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to tell your story to the world of making a woman from the inside out.
Gosh, I think with stories or backgrounds like ours,
Mm-hmm.
people, when you tell a normal person your story, their eyes are like saucers and they're just like, oh my God, girl, you got to write a book.
Yeah.
And so I heard this year after year and I was like, you know what, maybe I should put some pen to paper here. And so, she manifested, and I have to think that, that book is an entity of her own. So,
Yeah, right.
So, it was an experience.
Oh, that's fantastic. I had the pleasure of reading it. You forwarded me a copy and read great sections of it, and it just it was very inspiring and honest. An honest appraisal. And, people have said to me, oh, Mike, that's fantastic. You should write a book. But I just I just discounted it and said, I can't do that. But you didn't say I can't do that. You said, okay, I'll do it. So kudos.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, right. So, but what I love, so we're Sober.Coffee, right? And so we hang around with, at the coffee shop here, and people listen in and they're on the road to recovery somewhere. Maybe it's their first week. Maybe they haven't made the decision yet. Maybe it's their first week, their first month, their first year, or their 10th year. But we focus on recovery. But what intrigued me when Glenn introduced me to the concept of sharing coffee with you was that one of the things that you stated is that this is not a girl gets sober story. Tell us how this story's different.
You know, I think a lot of us have some very traumatic backgrounds. And to get even like, it's almost like we land on the island of, the rooms, sobriety. And sometimes it's like, this is exactly where I want to stay. Like I'm no longer drowning. I'm not in these, terrible, tornadoes and weather. I'm just going to stay right here. And for a lot of people, that's a beautiful place. It's a miraculous place. I'm not downsizing it.
Right.
But for me, it was like I landed, yet I still had this incredible drive, this like almost like this yearning of like, there is more for me to do. And so my story seems like I stopped there at the island, but man, I'm out doing this and that and writing books and doing bodybuilding competitions and all this extra stuff. Right. So, but I do come back and I land on the island. Like I go out and I come back. And I go out and I come back.
I love it. Can I throw you the bodybuilding thing you said, right? So is it okay if I say, I'm quoting here, I'm going to ask permission first. Your age, at the age of fill in the blank, Jules placed third at the NPC North American Championship this year. So I didn't know if you wanted to share your age or not. The press, the release said it. So
I am a woman who is very happy I have this number.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations on your successes there.
That was amazing. It was a national bodybuilding show. And to be honest, when this whole thing started, I simply was a 40-year-old woman who wanted to get the cellulite off my thighs.
Right.
This is really where the little nugget began, and that was 10 years ago. So yeah, this is quite an accomplishment. One, of course, that I never even imagined.
So you walk in the gym 10 years ago, and 10 years later, you placed third at a national championship. That's outstanding. That's really a short runway for that kind of success.
Yeah, there's a lot of effort.
Right.
I think I learned that stuff in sobriety, actually. That drive, that go when you don't want to go. It's like I applied all these rules to that, and just like when I got sober, things catapulted at a rapid speed. Right. So I'd have to think that this was the same reason.
Yeah, but didn't I read in the pages of your book that you've always had that? I saw it anyway. Maybe I was reading between the lines, but I saw drive. I mean, it was driven by survival techniques and just trying to kind of survive the environment around you and the different challenges, but it was an undeniable drive that I heard. I mean, just the perseverance. And so I could see how you took that and took it into the gym. I pity the weight room that those poor weights that you were banging around there.
There was a lot of energy. Especially in beginning sobriety.
So am I hearing you right that your drive, are you agreeing with me that you always had that drive? But what you found is you found a way to channel this now in sobriety.
Could say it that way. Absolutely. Because I look back and it's astounding that even as I read my story from like the third person, right? And it's just like, oh my God, what was that thriving, and I have to think some of that was my ego. My ego was very strong, and man, she was not going to let down. We were not going to settle. And so now on this side of the tracks, we'll say, in sobriety, it's like, I don't want to kill her. Like, she is super powerful. And so that part of me, I think we just moved on into, the rest of life.
Right.
Yeah. So Joel, what are some highlights of your sober story?
First one is that I made it.
Amen, man. I'll tell you what, amen.
Day one.
Amen.
Amen.
I think sobriety has allowed me to see parts of life that I couldn't before recovery, right? Like, so first off, it was the spot that I came into full of rage and anger and inappropriateness and everything. I could 100% be raw. It was the only place in the entire world, and still today, that I can be 100% raw and not have to buffer anything. So that was really, really important when I was getting sober, because I was oozing out the seam. I mean, the rage, the anger, the everything. I was ready to implode. Another thing is that I actually, for the first time in my life, had seen a man cry in the rooms. I'd never witnessed, ever. Those were always my opponents, my perpetrators. So to see this gentleman in that state,
He's so
was
vulnerable
and
real.
That was an awesome experience. And then now I think for the third one, it's just that now I've got these amazing tools that once I resisted, now I actually embrace, and I can universally use them in any part of my day, situation. I mean, it's not just one thing I do on the side. It's what I do every day.
It's your life. It's your value set that drives you.
Yeah. So when you mentioned the tools, what are some of the tools, like the top 2 or 3 tools that you use today to not just maintain sobriety, but thrive within sobriety?
You know, I live in a world that's super chaotic, just like everybody else. And so
sure is.
When my eyes open, it's like that brain has had 8 hours of playground time. And so
time to get to work.
The monkeys are out on the playground. I mean, that's what's going down up there. And so for me, it's like, I got to start right in the beginning. I get my cup of coffee. I grab my journal right in the morning, because anything that's resonating from the day before is something I'm carrying. And obviously it's not serving me today. And so I journal that out. And so it's kind of releasing that.
That's great.
And then what I do after that is, like, now that I've taken something out, I feel like I got to put something back in. And so I'll listen to something like, like Wayne Dyer, or read some, literature, or whatever I'm craving. I have that freedom today. And then that kind of sets me on the right track. Another really strong tool of mine is fellowship. For me as a woman, I'm a communicator. I cannot process something in my mind and come up with a solution. I'm one of those that have to push it around on the table and figure it out from this angle. And so my circle is very, very important to me. And the third one I would have to say is I'm mindful. I turn inward. I turn inward often.
Wow, good stuff. Really good stuff.
It's worked. It's worked to this point.
Yeah. Do you have, so you mentioned Wayne Dyer. Do you anything in particular we could throw in our resource room that you found to be comforting, or just?
I think I found, first off, that he was one of us.
Right, right.
Which was pretty profound.
I didn't know that.
It makes you feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah,
inside.
I love him.
I really like that.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Because now that's...
I know, now it clicks. It really does.
Yeah, the perception. I think with Wayne Dyer, he just has this amazing ability to generalize, but also get right to the core. And I say that by just us being humans, in this plane, in this world, and how we function the way we do, and things that are ours and things that are not ours. I mean, he is just my dose of medicine, especially on the super tough days. His voice alone is just soothing.
It's outstanding. We're going to put we'll put some links up in the resource room on the website. That's outstanding.
Yeah, I really like how you highlight those tools. One, journaling. I don't really journal yet. Mike, I know you do.
I do.
You get a lot of value out of that.
I get a lot of value.
That's probably something that I can add. But fellowship, man, I'll tell you what. And Jules, you use the word, when you talk about fellowship, use the word circle, right? And we've talked about that a lot. I talk about going through life on a Ferris wheel, right? And it's really important who's in that car with me. Get the wrong people out and the right people in. And then being mindful and turning inward. That's where I like the idea of starting the day with some coffee. That's what I do, and some mindful meditation, turning inward, and I turn upward.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have to ask. So in fact, Mikey and I were just talking. I used to drink for 18 hours a day, and then when I stopped drinking, I had 18 hours a day, and I had to start filling that time with something else, and I just started saying yes to everything. But so you started the bodybuilding, and that obviously takes health, right? You have to focus on health and nutrition and spend time in the gym. Did you start that after you started sobriety?
I got sober when I was 35. So those first 5 years, I think, were just emotional tornadoes. I was not capable
I love how
of
you put
anything
that.
more than that. And so then it was, and you know, we get sober in stages, right? And so once I got to that like emotional state of sobriety, there was so much built up in me that little did I know, like, this is how I know source works for me. Me and my little finite eyes, I'm thinking, I'm going to go get strong and I'm going to get muscles. And God's like, girl, I'm going to give you an outlet, you know?
Man, I
And
love
so
that.
it's totally what it was. So I would take all that angst and stuff that I could not fix, and I would bring it into the gym. And so as a woman of 120 pounds at that time, for me to get underneath a sled, a rack of weights, and push it with my legs
I think I know what a sled is.
was
It's heavy.
very
It's very heavy.
empowering. Yeah. So it's like I would just bust all of that out. And then it was almost like a meditation, a physical meditation. Because then when I went on with my day, it was kind of like, hit me with your best shot. Like there is nothing that's going to tip me off my beam today. Like, you have no idea what I've just done. So I think it works more so in my sobriety aspect. And then I get the gifts of, the results of it.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So you write this book. Tell me what you hope to achieve by the distribution of this book. What is it that what when you were writing, you're like, okay, I hope this does this. And from what I read, I don't think you were looking to write a bestseller, not to say that but
I'm not even going to receive that message.
That's right. You wrote with purpose.
Absolutely. I did. I wasn't writing to the masses.
No.
You're so correct. No.
So who was your audience?
So, as you sit down and you actually conceive the idea that you're going to be putting your entire life story into pages and words, my ego was doing a happy dance. Like, we are going to make a motion picture. We are just robust in these ideas. And it really, my heart pitter pattered and I got super overwhelmed. And I just had to bring it right back down. What is this for? Why am I doing this? And for me, it was, I want to reach the girl in the back of the room. The girl who thinks, even amongst this huge crowd, that she's alone. That is the most devastating position to be in. And I've been there. And I know what that feels like. And I know what that looks like. And I know how that will follow right into the rest of that day. And so that's really where it started.
That's great.
Well,
right?
that's where it ended too, because I'm telling you, I felt that as I flipped the pages. I felt that's who your audience was. That girl in the back of the room, right? Right.
Yeah. And now I'm seeing that it affects both men and women.
Absolutely.
I mean, I focused from my own experience. Mm-hmm. But as I've mentioned, like, as you get sober, you realize that everybody else, men cry too. Like, we are all in this together.
Yes, I do.
So that's now what I'm getting to realize again, is that these words are hitting more than just the women, which is profound.
So what does the young man do with the book? So they've read the book. What are you encouraging them to do? What's their 1, 2, 3 steps to go find what I think I'm hearing from you is emotional sobriety? Where do you find that balance? Where do you find that self-worth? What do you recommend to them if they're just coming off of chaos? And
when we wrote the book, let's go back a second.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I wanted to do was spew more trauma into this world.
Mm-hmm.
That was absolutely the furthest goal. So what Marlene and I did is we spoke on a universal level, which we know as the language of the heart. Mm-hmm. And so by using that as my thread throughout the entire book, I'm able to take my reader right along with me. We're like, train tracks. We're locked in and you ride this with me. And so then you get to feel the highs and the lows, and, the celebrations are yours as well. Because from my experience going into the rooms, that's exactly what keeps me coming back, is that you can relate to what desperation feels like, because I have it too, So that's really my primary purpose, was just to lock in and let people realize again, like, you are not the only one. Mm-hmm. This is real, and what you're feeling is real, right? And so as we go through the story and we get to, you know, the other side, you know, then it's like a little glimpse of hope of like, holy shit, you know, she's a mess, but she's doing it. She's staying sober, you know? So that's really mine, again, is just an example of what I've done.
So inspirational.
Man, that's
That's
such
all
a
I'm
great
doing.
story of hope. Jules,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Hey, Jules, how do folks find you? Can you shout out your
Yeah.
don't make fun of it. Your handles or your ats or
My
Mikey's
ats and
laughing at
handles.
me, sorry.
You know what? We've created this amazing website,
Mhm.
and it's actually the title of the book, themakingofAwoman.com. And on there, you will see everything from the book launch to various events. Of course, you can purchase the book from that site. You'll see all of my social media channels. And that's my entity, that's my wheelhouse. So anytime people reach out to me, I'm the one, you know, who's sitting behind the keyboard and talking back with them. Yeah, and social media is just amazing today. It's a great tool.
Yeah, so something that, you know, I just want to kind of start wrapping up with is the book is called Making of a Woman.
Right.
Right?
From the inside
But-
out.
From the inside out. But something tells me that a man would benefit from reading the book also.
I did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, because I focused on that commonality of the
Right.
language of the heart.
And I love what you said that, you know, there's a girl in the back of the room, there's a guy in the back of the room, and yeah, a lot of times the guy in the back of the room has a tear in his eye, you know. So I love that, and I also love just to highlight, you know, you said, hey, in sobriety, it gives you a chance to be raw, to be real, and it really does. I really picked up on that.
Yeah, what an opportunity.
And it's great.
I mean, if you think about it, there's so many, you know. And also, I think with just back on the men topic real quick, you know, as a woman, I'm expected to be emotional, and it's acceptable for me to be emotional. But for men, they're even more imprisoned. Heaven forbid if a man were walking into a grocery store crying. I mean, it's just absolutely against
Hey,
social norms.
have you seen the price of milk? It makes me
Very sad.
it makes me tear up, Jules.
Yeah, but you know, that's one of the things that we've unpacked before is that, you know, as men, I was taught and brought up, you know, you don't cry.
And you
right?
don't ask for help.
Deal with it. And
you
yeah,
don't ask
that's
for
where I
help.
was going. And you don't ask for help. You become self-sufficient. If you ask for help, that's a weakness. And what we have found in sobriety, that asking for help is one of the strongest things that we can do.
Right.
And in the rooms of, you know, in the rooms of recovery, when we ask for help is there.
Right. Jules, we
Tenfold.
with Jules. First of all, I want to give you the last word, and then I want to invite you back because, yeah. So, but last word, anything you want to leave the listeners with?
Absolutely. It was very profound when somebody told me this, and so I'd like to pass it on, that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Doing exactly what you're doing. It's all part of the process. So many times I felt such great defeat out there. I was a failure. I mean, you saw the list, right? I'm a dropout. I'm a good for nothing, you know, and then to actually have somebody say, this is perfect. It's perfect, Jules. It opened my heart. So I leave you with that.
That's great.
I love it, Jules. Will you come back and see us again?
I would love to.
Jules,
as long as you're
you
bringing
rock.
donuts, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm in.
absolutely. You
Yeah,
rock.
All right, and say hi to that little puppy for me.
I will, guys.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Jules.
Jules.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.